Hi, this is Jackie, the host of Should Have Listened to My Mother. Before we get into this episode, I wanted to take a minute to mention a couple of things. First and foremost, I wanted to send my condolences to the family and friends of Jake Burton Carpenter, the founder and creator of Burton Boards, who passed away in November of 2019, which was after this episode was actually recorded. In a minute, you're going to hear a couple of great stories from my guest, Mark Heingartner, who worked very closely with Jake before anybody even knew what a Burton board was. And someone listening may not know what a Burton board is, so hopefully you're going to stick around and listen to the whole episode. So that's one thing I wanted to set aside. And also now we are in the middle of this pandemic, which hopefully we'll never have to live through again. But my guest is also a first responder in New York City, a firefighter. And again, this episode was recorded before any of this corona pandemic was even in the forefront of our minds. So Mark and the Heingartner family, extended families and first responders, doctors, nurses, emergency personnel, firefighters, all over the world, I'm keeping you all very close to my heart. Jackie Tantillo with you and another edition of Should Have Listened to My Mother. A couple of words to describe today's guest, other than a real sweetheart, would be a risk taker, thrill seeker, selfless, brave, compassionate, generous, loving, and that's just to name a few. I've known my guest since I was about 4 or 5 years old. He's a little bit younger than myself. He was still in diapers at the time, from what I remember. But all of his siblings and my siblings, we all grew up together on the same block in Garden City, New York. My guest is the youngest of 6, and I'm the youngest of 7 kids. And here we are today, where our age difference is no longer significant, but perhaps the role that our mom played in our lives is. Hello, Mark Heingartner, and welcome to Should Have Listened to My Mother.
Jackie, thanks for having me.
As I just mentioned, I've known Mark a very, very long time. I don't know if I've ever known anyone who has done fascinating things that you have in your lifetime, and it's pretty remarkable. So what we're going to do is we'll talk a little bit about who you are and the adventures you've had in your life and your experiences, and then we'll get into how your mom shaped you and who you are today. And is it because of your mom or in spite of your mom or both? So how about if we start with your mom's name?
Mary Patricia Murphy.
And what did you guys have a nickname for her?
Only later in life, when grandchildren were born, we called her Pats.
And your dad is Walter.
Yes,
not
Walter.
Intuit, right?
we called him Big Wally.
As I mentioned, I think we were maybe 6 houses apart from one another growing up, and we were basically at your house, the Heingartner's house, or at our house. So I have these vivid memories from childhood of spending quite a bit of time in your parents' beautiful home. Let's start with a little bit about what you've been doing over the last couple of years. Well, you're a great dad, great younger brother, you're a snowboarder, a surfer, a lifeguard, and a New York City firefighter. And that's just to start things off. So that's pretty incredible. How about if we start with talking a little bit about the Burton snowboards?
Sure, sounds good.
You were the first generation of professional snowboarding reps for Jake Burton?
Yeah, that's right. I started snowboarding in the late 70s when really the sport just began. And I met Jake Burton Carpenter through some mutual friends of ours, when I was around 15, and picked up a board, and one thing led to another, and started working in his factory and helping him make boards, and then started going to the early day contests, like the first 1 or 2, and had some success there. Then he picked me up and sponsored me as a competitor and a rider, and then I went on a kind of a young professional career in the industry, like first generation, for around 8 or 9 years from there.
And you were in Japan. You were boarding all over the world.
Yeah, that was the coolest part of it. I left school. I went to 1 year of college, and I left school I often say to people, I left school to go to the Burton University because I got to see the world, for sure. Besides the United States, I traveled out to the Rockies and the Sierra Nevada area out in California and Oregon, and I got to go to Japan on a couple different occasions and snowboard over there, and all over Europe, Italy, Austria, Germany, Sweden, Norway, France, all the Alps, and for several years I traveled around and competed and trained and just represented Burton at different for their different sponsors and ski resorts and whatnot.
And now it's just so obvious what a huge success Burton and snowboarding in general is, but in the beginning, you guys were struggling. None of the mountains would let you on to board, right?
Correct. That was when Jake and I, first started working together, so to speak. He started the company, and he took me on as first an employee, helping him make the product, and then secondly, sponsoring me to ride the product and go to contests. And then that became part of my job too. And I was one of the early guys we would make a plan on. I'd make phone calls to different resorts throughout the country, and basically introduce myself and say there's this new upcoming sport, and I'd like to introduce it to the mountain. And could I come and do a demonstration with you there? And sometimes, and quite often, it would be with me and several team riders, or Jake himself and me and a couple of guys. And we would just go up and show them how we could get on and off the lifts and make turns and control the boards. But yeah, I mean, in the 80s, too, when we really started doing this, introducing it to ski resorts, because initially it was a backhill sport. Initially we were going, hiking up hills and mountains, and, down the New York area, people would be going to golf courses, and it was kind of like a, beside the sled type of sport. But then there was a lot of us who wanted to, progress it into going to ski resorts and getting on chairlifts. Mm-hmm. Kind of the ski influence of it. And we kind of took that on, and we introduced it that way and demonstrated at different resorts. And, one place after another would start letting it happen. But the thing was that back in the 80s, if you kind of remember, if people remember, the ski industry was going through a change, and a lot of it was because of liability. So it was a real challenge to get new things involved, because they were pretty conservative, and they really didn't want to be interested in other things that potentially could create problems for them. So it was a struggle with certain resorts, but slowly but surely they realized that the sport was progressing, and it was going to be a benefit for resorts to have snowboarders, because it was going to add to the numbers of people who's going to buy lift tickets.
How cool is that in hindsight, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Looking back, you guys used to sneak up at night and ride the boards down the mountain too, I think you told me. So it's just so, and taking that risk, it's really important in life. You guys didn't really know. I mean, you hoped and dreamed, but I know it wasn't easy.
I was a teenager, and then in my young 20s and early 20s, and it was it was just fun. But for Jake, he took it on. Jake Burton, he took it on, as a career from the get-go, and it's something he really wanted to progress into, the industry and the culture that's become really
huge.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I just want to give a shout out to, because you mentioned recently you were interviewed for Brian Knight's book called Snowboarding in Southern Vermont, and you said he got it right. So that's always interesting. If you want to hear more about Mark Heingartner and the beginnings of snowboarding, check out Brian Knight's new book. Are you still a lifeguard?
No, I stopped lifeguarding quite a few years ago. I guess it was about 15 years ago. But with that being said, that was really kind of my first career, so to speak. Even though it was seasonal, living here in the New York area and Long Island, because I snowboarded for. I lifeguarded for 25 years. which I've never known at the time when I started when I was 15, but it's developed into part of my pension when I retire in a few years down the road.
Oh, that is so amazing. Were you always at the ocean, or did you lifeguard in pools and things first?
No, it was always at the ocean for the most part. My first job was at a beach club down in Atlantic Beach, and initially I got my certification for the pool, which you can get at the age 15. You can't get ocean certification until you turn 16. But that same summer that I got the job, and I initially got hired to be a pool lifeguard at the beach club in Atlantic Beach. But then I turned 16 that summer, and straight away went ahead and took my ocean certification and got that. And then they started parlaying me into the ocean shifts and working at the beach. So 25 years of working at the beach.
Oh my gosh! Did you save a lot of people?
Yeah, quite a few through the years for sure. Not so much at the beach club down in Atlantic Beach because most of the people you were watching there were knowledgeable swimmers. But then I moved on to work for the Nassau County at Nassau Beach, and I worked there for 10 or 12 years. And so that was a public facility where you're getting more not so people who have the education awareness of the ocean and swimming. So definitely made some rescues through the years there. But then 1990, I moved on to working for the state at Jones Beach State Park. And there's where through the years you end up tallying a lot of rescues because buses come from various places where you're getting patrons who aren't as aware of the ocean and aren't as strong swimmers. So you definitely get your rescues there through the years. So I definitely made a lot of rescues throughout my career.
And you've participated in the Swim Across America, the 5K
fundraiser
I've been doing
for
that. Cancer.
That's an amazing organization, amazing event. I've been doing that for the past 4 years. It's a fundraiser for fighting cancer, for cancer development is actually what it is. And they do them throughout the whole country, but I do one particular event in Long Island Sound up in Glen Cove every summer, and I participate in the 5K event to help raise money for cancer research. And a lot of friends and family and generous people donate a lot of money to give to that organization and to me to do that swim. So that's a cool thing I've been doing for the past several years. So even though I don't lifeguard anymore, I'm in the water quite a bit. I live at the beach, and I'm an avid swimmer and an avid surfer, so still in the water a lot, and actually still make rescues along the way at the beach when the lifeguards are off duty and I'm out there surfing.
Oh my gosh, really? You rescue people every minute.
It turns out to, yeah, I mean, unfortunately most of the, when you hear about fatalities in the Long Island area and probably most places when, people drown, it's more often than not when the lifeguards aren't on duty. And as a surfer, we're often in the water before lifeguards get on and after lifeguards get off in the afternoons and evenings. So it seems to me like almost on average once or twice a year I end up making a rescue or one of the other surfers who I'm in the water with and grabbing someone and making a rescue. Because, once lifeguard, always lifeguard. You always have your eyes on the water and what's going on and who's around you and just looking out for each other.
That is amazing. And, well, that leads us to your next career or another one of your careers. You're a New York City firefighter. You had just had your 20th anniversary recently. Congratulations.
No, thank you.
Did you have any idea when you were a little kid that you'd be wanting to save people's lives and kind of changing the world?
Not necessarily. However, I do. Someone came up with a photo of me during one of my birthdays years back of when I was probably 4 or 5, and I had a fireman's outfit on, which I guess a lot of young boys end up doing. But I really kind of developed interest in the fire industry through lifeguarding because there was several lifeguards who I worked with who were firemen, and one particular guy who I worked with who had been in the fire department for several years, and we were sitting on the stand together one afternoon, and he asked me what I was doing career-wise, and that was in the midst of my my snowboarding. I was seasonally snowboarding when I wasn't lifeguarding, and he said, "You like making rescues? You like being down here? You like the emergency services? I go, yeah, sure I do. And he said, you should think about taking the fire department test. They give them every couple of years, and it's something you might be right up your alley. And he was exactly right, because I ended up taking the test a year or so later when it was available, and 20 plus years now, and been a great career. I really have enjoyed it, and I feel blessed to have the opportunity to be in the fire department in New York City Fire Department.
What kind of personality does it take, or what traits does it take to be a fireman?
It's a real team effort. So you really depend on each other. When civilians are looking at a fire scenario, there's a lot of us who respond, but everyone's got a job to do. So, there might be dozens or hundreds of guys at a particular fire, but everyone's doing something. That as long as everyone's doing their part, it usually turns out to be success at the end. Getting people out in the fire out. So it's a real team effort. It's a real camaraderie, and within the firehouse, the culture is, we have things to take care of there too, not just responding to fires, but taking care of the facilities that we work at and making sure that the rig is, the truck for the engine is ready to go, and all the equipment on it is ready to go, and we have committee work every day, and we cook meals, we do the cleaning, we make the bunks, we pretty much take care of everything within our own particular house, and that's why they sort of call this a firehouse.
Do you want to give a shout out to your house?
Yeah, my firehouse is at 25 on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, 77th Street, between Amsterdam and Broadway, and I'm in the 11th Battalion, and shout out to those guys and everyone within the 11th Battalion.
Do you work with any female firefighters?
Yes, one of I have through the years, and at the moment, one of my bosses, one of the lieutenants at our firehouse, Lauren Smith. She's been on for I think close to 15 years now, and she's a lieutenant within the fire department. And
do you see many women firefighters? Are they out there in the city, or not so much?
They are. There's definitely been more of a recruitment for females in the past, I guess, like 5 years or so within my career. There's always been kind of like a steady number of, somewhere like around 50 women in the department, or 100. Those numbers are going up. I mean, the fire department is about 10,000 strong, and the recruitment has definitely expanded towards the females, and they've been making a good showing and doing their part for sure.
Always nice to hear and see. Does the fire department have a motto? Do you guys have a motto that you say? Always ready? Nike says, just do it. Do you guys have something like, hoo-yah? Do you have something like that, or not so much?
I guess amongst each other, sometimes we say we're getting it done. We get it done. We do whatever it takes, basically, to get it done. And we just don't put out fires. We have all sorts of emergencies. We go to car accidents and electrical emergencies and flood scenarios and medical emergencies. And we get it done for sure.
You sure do. Oh my gosh. I think about you guys all the time. I mean, in New York City, the sirens are going 24/7. So I admire and respect what you do and all of your friends do. And we've had friends that are firefighters as well. And you also were at 9/11. You're at Ground Zero. I'm sure that has changed your life for many, many reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. Tough time during the department, but we're still going through it. Unfortunately, people are still dying of 9/11 illnesses. Whatever, it's 18 years later. Mm-hmm. So the effects are still there, but the fire department is. It's one thing I've learned through the years. It was early on to my career when 9/11 happened. I was in about my third year. We continue, and it's a strong department, and we count on each other, and we rely on each other to move forward, and we never forget those who we lose along the way, but we pick up where they left off, and we try to be there. We are there for the city and anyone who needs us on a given emergency or on a given day, or 24/7, 365.
Oh, I remember talking to Beth, one of your sisters, and because I knew you were down there, and the conversation was based on if you had the right respirators, because I know a lot of you guys were down there regardless of taking care of yourselves, because you just wanted to be there to try and find your friends. So definitely has left a lasting impression, not just for you guys, but for everybody, really. We admire and respect everything that you do.
Thank you for saying that.
Very hard. So here we are now. We're going to transition because it's so important. All of this has affected your life, your journey, your path. But one woman I really want to talk about, who I know had a huge impact on your life, was your mom. Your mom, Pat's. She was just great. Did she have a nickname for you? Did she call you something, cutie pie?
I think she had a lot of pet names for me, for sure, through the years. She called me Marky. She called me MC. My middle name is Christopher. She called me Sweets a lot. She referred to all of her children as Sweets.
Were you her favorite?
No, Mom can't have a favorite.
A
friend of mine told me years ago. He goes, "It's okay to have a favorite child as long as it keeps on revolving to one to the other along the way."
Right.
Yep. But as you know, like you were in your family, I was the baby. So
yeah, we got away with murder. I learned so much. I learned to keep my mouth shut and listen, and I just learned and watched everybody, and they taught me everything.
Absolutely.
Your mom, turned out she grew up not too far from where I live in New Jersey, in Westfield, New Jersey, and I was doing some research, and I was like, oh my gosh, she learned to ride horse. She was riding horses in Central Park, and then she actually wound up parlaying that later on into her life. And she actually, you told me that she used to take you guys horseback riding a lot, right?
Yeah, we definitely learned how to horseback ride when we were kids because of one of her passions, and she brought us to a couple of dude ranches through the years on vacation, and it was definitely, I haven't ridden a horse in several years. I don't think any of my siblings have either, but it's one of those things that we learned when we were young, so I'm sure if we were put back in that scenario, we could just jump back on and take, pick up where we left off.
And she loved the outdoors. She skied way into her life.
She was an amazing skier. My mom was an amazing skier. Loved the outdoors. Her and my dad ended up, when we were young kids, we rented houses in Vermont. And that developed into them to wanting to buy property and build a home there, which they did. And then eventually in their life, they ended up moving there. And it was kind of in the middle of their life. They were middle-aged. They were probably in their
our age.
Yeah, they were in their 50s when they ended up settling in Vermont. And my dad started a business, and my mom was starting some of her small side businesses there as well. And my mom was a big fan and advocate of being outdoors and nature and taking hikes and skiing, and she was a great skier.
And just so everyone knows and understands that when you walked into the Heingartner house on Long Island or Vermont, whichever home they had, the interiors were absolutely stunning. They were beautiful, filled with antique pieces and beautiful lamps and the paint color choices. And this was when I was in kindergarten through high school. It had an impact on my life, how beautiful your home was and peaceful, and just every room you could just go and, oh my gosh, you could go into the living room or the beautiful bar room with all the windows, Mark with all the family photos, and it was just stunning. And her brother, Uncle Alan, was an interior designer as well.
Yeah, my mom definitely took great pride in her homes and taking care of them. And that was one of her businesses through the years. She did some interior design work and decorating, and she was a collector of antiques and had some space along the years at different antique stores where she sold her stuff, and that was one of her great passions and life, and we reaped the benefits of that with the homes. And you talk about the photographs, and it's funny because I have a couple of friends through the years, and one in particular who lived in Long Beach, and he was just kind of redesigning and decorating his home, and he started putting photographs up everywhere, and he goes, your mom and her decorating left a great impression on me when I visited you guys in Vermont years back and saw that she had photographs everywhere, including like the bathroom where someone's going to take some time and they actually like really look at things, so.
Oh my gosh,
that's
it's
my mom.
so true. She affected so many of us. How neat is that? If you wanted to just hang out and spend some time with your mom, where or what would you do? Like, what would you go to the house? Would you be outdoors? Where were you guys most comfortable, or where would it be most comfortable for you?
Anywhere was comfortable with my mom. She made all the situations where you were comfortable, and so many interests I have now are things that I take from her. Whether it would be out skiing or snowboarding together or going to the beach together. She had a great love for the beach. Her dad spent the majority of his life at the beach in Long Island and Point Lookout, and she picked that up from him, and then she passed it on to us. My mom spent a lot of time in the kitchen preparing food, and she made Dad always comfortable, and usually our kitchens through the years turned out to be open floor plans, so we could all be in there and enjoy it with her, and I picked up some tricks from her along the way in the kitchen too. So yeah, anywhere was a good place to be with Mom because she always made it fun, and she just had a really shiny, bright personality, which is pretty special to think back on. It makes me get a little teary-eyed at the moment.
I'm so sorry. This podcast has that effect on people, and the reason I wanted to do it so much is that we can share the stories, but we can also help each other. As a parent, you learn from other people's parents. You are handed down these oral stories, and that's how we learn. And you had mentioned a story recently about how she was really wanted to have you guys have good manners, and tell us how she used to sit you at the table.
Oh yeah, she was very old-fashioned in her manners and her ways, and she always wanted us to sit at the table, boy, girl, boy, girl. I guess she learned that along the way from her parents. Yeah, table manners were huge with my mom, and not in an annoying way. There was a lasting effect that she was very kind and very, saying, no elbows on the table, and put your napkin in your lap, Mark, and no hats inside, and she taught me things always along the ways of always to hold the door open for a woman when she's coming into a house or a home or a door, and you have to be kind to all.
Oh my gosh, it's the coolest thing. And you teach your daughter the same, right? I'm sure.
Yeah.
Morally conscious.
Yeah.
So she's with you. Pats is with you every minute, just like my parents are with me every minute. I can still hear my mom and my dad's voice. Was your mom an activist?
My mom was very charitable. She was very involved in the church, and she was always doing charity type of work along the way. And I guess I picked that up from her along the way, too, with the Swim Across America and other things I do and other things the kids do. And then she also worked, you reminded me of this, like later in life when you were talking to one of my sisters, that she was working with some handicapped kids with horses in Vermont through the years.
Yeah. She was training young handicapped children to ride horses. How cool is that?
Yeah, very cool.
Did your mom have idols or anyone who inspired her, whether it was a musician or an artist?
Well, her and my dad were definitely big fans of Frank Sinatra, and they went to several of his concerts through the years. But also one of my fondest memories of my mom was whenever we were in a setting like, at a wedding or some sort of dance scenario, my mother always loved to get on the dance floor and dance. And it was, when you saw her dance, it was just, and you did through the years, I'm sure at one time or another, it was just pure joy. She just had a grin from ear to ear and just enjoyed moving to the music.
It's really amazing. I mean, I think my parents were a generation ahead of your parents, but still, the Frank Sinatra, forget it. My boys today, they love Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
We lived by Frank Sinatra. It was just such a wonderful era. The music was just fantastic. What gift or gifts did your mom give you?
My mom was always very patient. So I've always tried to carry that on in life, having patience. Patience with children, patience with people. And she's also very personable and kind to strangers. Whether she always, as a young boy, she'd always want me to recognize and say hello to, someone who was coming into our home, or whether it was the plumber coming in to do some work in the house, or it was the mailman, or anyone. She just wanted you to recognize and show respect to people along the way. So, those gifts. And she definitely was very friendly, and would always speak to a stranger in a restaurant scenario or just pick up a conversation. She definitely had a little bit of the gift of gab. I don't know if I got that so much, but I definitely see that in other members of my family, my siblings. That reminds me of my mom, which is really sweet.
When you're talking with Carrie, Chuck, Keith, Beth, or Katrina, do you see your mom in them with expressions and mannerisms?
Yes, for sure. For sure.
That's pretty cool, isn't it? It's pretty fun
it is
when you
cool.
see that.
Yeah. And I was just up at Stratton with my brother Keith, who lives up there recently, and we were in a gondola where it was just me and him snowboarding together one afternoon. But in the gondola, there's 8 people, and sure enough, he did remind me of my mom. The way he just picked up conversations with the kids in the gondola and the other folks in the gondola, about just normal day stuff. Where are you from? You having fun? Enjoy your day, that type of thing.
Puts a big smile on your face, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm. So who you are today, is it because of your mom, in spite of your mom?
Oh, definitely because of, for sure. I think that, we were talking about career earlier, and she always supported me 100%. I didn't take the normal path. As far as careers went and work and whatnot, she definitely had a strong work ethic. And when I started lifeguarding early in life, when I was 15, she was definitely happy I was doing that. I was 15 and getting a job. But then, as life moved on and I graduated high school, then went to college, and when I decided to not go back to college after my freshman year, so I could pursue snowboarding and a professional career in that, and then it was unheard of. She was very supportive and very open to me doing something out of the norm. I wasn't asking for anything from her or my dad as far as financially went to do this. They knew I had a work ethic, and I was just taking a different path because my dad was in the automobile business, as you know, and my other 2 brothers went into business with him, and I opted not. And then when the snowboarding started to come to an end for me, career-wise, and then I was pursuing a career in the fire department. As a mother, I think that she was definitely concerned for my well-being. However, once again, she was very supportive in that. And I remember she had great pride in me and what I was doing. I remember on my graduation day in February of 1999, how she was happy and proud of me to be pursuing that career and doing something that I wanted to do and that I loved.
That's really hard sometimes for a parent, but she believed in you, Mark.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was thinking of it, people think that, the fire department is a, potentially dangerous career, and sure, it's a dangerous career, but, something that Mom taught me when I was a young child was you have to look both ways when you cross the street. So, I think you can take that into anything you do, and, I have been, somewhat a risk taker in some of the activities that I do through the years in my sports, but I still try to size things up and to know what I'm going into, and just instead of jumping at things blind. And that's the same thing with the fire service. You gotta know what's around you, what's going on, potentially to keep in a safe situation.
Well said. Can't say it any better than that. Pats, she was wonderful. Mark Heingartner has been my guest today. I'm Jackie Tantillo. Mark, I think of you all the time, and I shout out to the guys on 77th Street in New York, and be safe, because I know that you work really, really hard to keep everybody else safe. We'll be in touch soon. Maybe you can come back and join us again.
Thank you, Jackie. It's been my pleasure, and it's always nice talking to you.